Hey guys, this video is going to go on our how to do stuff in Japan playlist, although it's a bit more one of those heads up videos more than it is a how to do stuff video. You don't actually have to do anything. It's one of those things that it's probably good to know before you come, so that you can sort of expect it and not be too surprised when you come across it. And that's the lack of political correctness that you will experience in Japan. Some people might say that some countries have become too politically correct, and not being politically correct might be a good thing, but you still might find cases here where you are shocked by what some people say, and particularly some people might find some of it offensive. So a few examples. One common one, the one we see quite often, is one of the characters on TV here, one of the talent they call them. It really doesn't, they don't actually have any talent, most of them. They're really a TV personality is what we'd call them in English probably. And one of the TV personalities here, his little thing, a lot of them have their own little sort of thing that they do every time, predictably. And his little thing is to black his face up and look a little bit like President Obama, and by blacking his face, and then he does little skits pretending to be President Obama. And of course, in some countries, someone who's not black, blacking their face up and pretending to be black might be considered not politically correct, of course, but everybody laughs their heads off at it here. They all think it's incredibly funny, or a lot of people here think it's incredibly funny, or pretend to. Another examples of not politically correct. Some of the phrases that you might come across as a foreigner in Japan. Well, foreigners one. It'd be sort of nicer to be called a non-Japanese person, wouldn't it? But foreigner, and we used to have on our foreigner registration card written across the top of it, just to help you feel really part of the scene. And because, you know, for people who've lived here 10, 20, 30 years, being constantly called a foreigner sort of wears a little bit thin. I mean, it's accurate, isn't it? It is accurate, that is true, but it's obviously not politically correct. It'd be a little bit more politically correct to call a person a non-Japanese person, wouldn't it? A few of the others that you guys probably already know. Salaryman. So you can get two people who work in an office or a bank or somewhere, and they do exactly the same job as each other, but the guy is called a salaryman and the lady is called an office lady, right? They're doing the same job, but he's called a salaryman and she's called an office lady. So there's a big heads up, particularly to the ladies who might be coming and working in Japan in an office. You find yourself working in an office in Japan, don't be offended when they call you the office lady, because, you know, that's what they're going to call you. And you'll be doing the same job as the guy beside you. They'll call him the salary man, they'll call you the office lady. One that does bother some people who've lived here long term, who've married to a Japanese person, is anybody who's half Japanese. So if one parent is from another country, that person is called a hafu. So they're calling you half. You're half Japanese, so you're a hafu. And it's not used, you know, it's not meant to be offensive. People just use it, you know, and quite often, in fact, it's actually, you know, there's a lot of people in Japan who are famous mainly because they are hafus. You know, there's a few television personalities, and they're considered to be exotic and interesting, and because they have usually been born in Japan and raised in Japan. They're Japanese, right? They've lived here all their life, they've been born here, raised here, they're full-on Japanese, and in another country they'd just be referred to by their nationality. But because one of their parents is a foreigner, they get called a hafu. And there's a lot of TV personalities that are like this because they're interesting, because they're Japanese, so they speak Japanese, so they behave Japanese, they are Japanese, but they look different, they look exotic, and people will often look at them and say, oh look, you know, of course they're good looking because they're a hafu, you know. And people who have kids in Japan will hear this all the time. People will look at their kids and say, oh, a hafu, oh look, it's a hafu, oh of course, so cute, of course, so beautiful, you know, oh look, a hafu. And so it's, you know, some parents of you know, some foreign parents here with kids, you know, who are half Japanese do take offense at that one, because they hear it all the time, every day, you know, hafu, hafu, hafu. The foreigner thing too, just as a side note, I walked into a business meeting recently, and there was an older guy there, maybe 70 years old or something, and I've walked into the business meeting, and he's going, oh, and he stood up, and he said to me, oh, this is the first time I've met a foreigner, in Japanese of course. Gaijin. Gaijin itself is a fairly not politically correct word, because it means outsider, you know. And again, if you've lived in Japan 10, 20, 30 years and you keep getting called a gaijin, some people take offense at that, you know. So, you know, this guy's just stood up and said, oh, gaijin. First time I've met a gaijin, he said, in Japanese, you know. And again, no offense was meant. No offense was meant. And this is sort of the point of this video, is that, you know, the examples that have just been given, I'll just have a quick look, make sure I haven't missed any. Oh yeah, the examples that I've just given you might not seem a big deal to some people, and they might think, oh, you know, that's all cool, no problems there, that's great if that's the way you think about it. But it depends on what your button is. You might have a button that might get pushed to you. You know, it's quite possible that somebody might say something, or you just might hear something and be surprised. You might turn on the TV and see the guy with his face blacked up pretending to be Obama, or, you know, you might hear one of these things and be a bit taken aback by it. The thing probably to remember is that no offense is meant, you know, and quite often it's exactly the opposite. You know, the hafu thing, as bad as that might sound to some people, actually is usually meant in a really positive way. You know, oh, a hafu, oh, of course, so beautiful. You know, a hafu, oh, you know, a guy who's a hafu, very cool. You know, so it's the thing we have to remember. And again, you know, if you're coming to a country that's got a different culture to what you're used to, you just have to go with it. You're not going to change it. You know, we always get people, occasionally we get people on the videos leaving comments saying, oh, you need to stand up against that and change it. Yeah, well, good luck with that. There's 127 million people here, you know. It doesn't matter how many foreigners stand up and say they don't like something, it's not going to change, you know. And neither should it, you know. This is Japanese culture, and it belongs to the Japanese people, and if they're happy with it the way it is, then that's the way it's going to be. So the reason for these videos is to point out this is what it's like. So if you come here, you will encounter this. And it might not bother you at all, which is fantastic, but if you come across something here like that does bother you, you just better just to roll with it and not show any reaction, because it's a good chance if you show any negative reaction to any of those examples, or even just point it out and laugh, nobody's going to understand why. They're going to go, what? Why? What's the problem? You know, hafu, can't you see the problem with that? You're calling someone half a person, and they're not going to get it. No, they're half Japanese. You know, they're not going to get it if you react to it. So, you know, there's a guy with his face blacked up on TV, you know, they're not going to get it. You're better off just letting it go. Remember this video and go, oh yeah, that's right, no political correctness in Japan, and just let it slide. And the thing that triggered this video is this. So, to see a sign, you know, to see a sign up like that, you know, school, I'm trying to remember what it said now, school for retarded, school for the retarded, you know. It's like a sign written by some young bad YouTube troll, isn't it? Calling people retarded. Yeah, that's what triggered this video, because we drive past that sign every day, and you know, in Japan you don't sort of think twice about it. And then recently I looked at it again and thought, yeah, that's not real politically correct, is it, you know? But it's just the way it is. So that's the bottom line on this video, guys. Just another heads up, if you come to Japan, be prepared for a distinct lack of political correctness. More videos coming soon.